Hey Swap, welcome to week 3 of our series, Doubt It. So I just want to address the elephant in the room. If the video quality you're seeing me on makes me look kind of pixelated or ghost-like, I apologize. I have a lot older tech than Tyler does. So if any of you want a better video quality next time I teach, you are more than welcome to buy me a new computer. I will accept anything except a Mac. Macs are bad. With that out of the way, let's get into our lesson. And I know that we usually read from the Bible when we start out our lessons, but I have another book that I want to read an excerpt from today. Many of you are probably familiar with it. See if you can guess what it is as I read. Alexander is not having a great day. He's had to endure gum in his hair, sitting in the middle of a back seat, making third best friend status, getting no dessert at lunch, eating lima beans, receiving railroad pajamas, and having to watch kissing on TV. All in one day. Maybe he should just move to Australia. Now, I think we would all agree life can be disappointing and frustrating at times. And I want to see if that's true. So raise your hand if you have ever experienced disappointment or sadness. Raise your hand if you have experienced things going badly. If you have ever been rejected. If you have ever lost out to someone else. If you have not always had all your prayers answered the way that you wanted. Clearly, everyone has experienced disappointment, rejection, or unanswered prayers at some point or other. Here's one more question. Raise your hand if you've ever heard or thought that following Jesus would make your life or make everything in your life okay. There's a verse in the Bible, Romans 8:28, that tells us that in everything, God works for our good. Some people interpret this verse to mean, if I follow Jesus, everything's going to be all right. But we know from our own experience that this isn't true. Even when we follow Jesus, we don't always get everything we want. We can still get hurt. Bad things still happen to us. Think about it. Have you ever asked God to do something, but God didn't do what you asked? How did that make you feel? In the rest of our time tonight, let's take a look at a man whose life is pretty much an extended version of Alexander's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. We're going to start off in Job chapter 1. There once was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. He also had many servants. He was, in fact, the richest person in that entire area. Job's sons would take turns preparing feasts in their homes, and they would also invite their 3 sisters to celebrate with them. When these celebrations ended, sometimes after several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each one of them. For Job said to himself, "Perhaps my children have sinned and have cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular practice. Then one day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. "Where have you come from?" the Lord asked Satan. And Satan answered, "I've been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. And Satan's response was, yes, but Job has good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, you may test him, the Lord said to Satan. Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but do not harm him physically. So Satan left the Lord's presence. And that's exactly what Satan did. In the course of minutes one day, Job had messengers report that his oxen and donkeys and camels were stolen, with all the farmhands and servants killed. His sheep were burned up by fire from the sky, and all the shepherds with him. And a house collapsed, killing all his children within. Job responded to this news by tearing his robe, shaving his head, and falling to the ground to worship God. He said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise be the name of the Lord. So in all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. And another day, the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser Satan came with them. Where have you come from? The Lord asked Satan. Satan answered, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. Then the Lord asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. And he has maintained his integrity, even though you urged me to harm him without cause. So Satan responded, skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life, but reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, do with him as you please, the Lord told Satan, but spare his life. So Satan left the Lord's presence, and it struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Just curse God and die. But Job replied, you talk like a foolish woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? So in all this, Job said nothing wrong. Now, after everything he experienced, Job cried out to God and asked, why? Why is this happening? He was confused because he's done his best to follow God, and he couldn't understand why God was allowing him to suffer. And Job had 3 friends who came and tried to comfort him through all of this pain. But after sitting with Job for a week, they decided they had an answer to Job's question about why all of this was happening to him. Except their answers were pretty bad. Offensive and hurtful, actually. Here's paraphrasing what they told Job. This is your fault. Bad things don't happen to innocent people, so you must be guilty of something. Your kids deserved it too. God has a plan. You just have to wait and see what it is. Be thankful. God must be disciplining you for something. Be grateful it's not worse. That is terrible comfort to someone who's hurting. But don't we hear things like this all the time? Maybe we're even guilty of saying this to someone else. These friends of Job go on lecturing him for a very long time. And when they're done, Job finally tells them, hey, everything you've said has been really hurtful and offensive. Oh, and you're wrong. Job tells him he hasn't sinned against God, but even if he had, Nothing he's done would deserve the kind of suffering he's experiencing. So Job cries out in pain again, asking God to just end his suffering already, because it's too much. Finally, God responds to Job. God appears and speaks to Job out of a great whirlwind. Here's a look at what he had to say. God doesn't give Job a direct answer. He doesn't tell Job about the conversation with Satan. He does something very different. He takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe. He shows Job how grand the world is and asks him if he is even capable of running it or understanding it just for a day. He showed Job how much detail there is in the world, things that we might see every day, but really don't understand at all. But God does. Then to conclude, God shows Job two wondrous beasts and brags about how great they are, yet they are dangerous. I mean, they would kill you without thinking about it. God says they're not evil, and they're actually a part of his good creation. And that's it. That's God's whole defense. It's kind of weird. I mean, what was this all about? Job never learned why he suffered. God didn't answer Job's question. Job wanted to know why so many terrible things happened to him, and God responded, just not in the way Job expected. Job asked why. God said, I am the creator of everything. I'm bigger, greater, more powerful, and kinder than you could ever imagine. You are so small compared to me. So Job didn't get the answer he was looking for, but he did get an encounter with the creator of the universe. And that was enough for Job. If you're dissatisfied with how the story ends, I get it. I used to feel that way too. And to be honest, I still do sometimes. When horrible or bad things happen, I want God to tell me why they're happening, especially if they're happening to me. It's hard to have faith when you're experiencing something difficult that you can't understand or explain. That's okay. That's the point of Job's story. Just like Tyler said 2 weeks ago, you are not alone in your questions. Job had a lot of questions too. And Tyler said last week, God doesn't shame us for our questions. God never condemned Job for asking why, because God understands our pain. And in tonight's story, we learn a third important thing about our questions and doubts. Sometimes our questions don't always get answered. Let's return to that Romans passage I mentioned earlier, the one people sometimes think means everything will work out just fine. Romans 8:28, and we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Now, this verse doesn't mean our lives will eventually have a happy ending like the end of a sitcom or your favorite Disney movie. When we experience pain and heartache, the hard truth is that our questions don't always get answered, at least in this lifetime. But God will redeem what we've suffered or lost. At the end of Job's story, God restores Job's life by giving him double of everything he had before. But that doesn't take away the pain and suffering that Job experienced. We may not be able to avoid pain. We may not be able to fix everything in life. We may never even know why it happened. But here's what I do know. God promises to redeem our stories so we can know him better, help others and make the world a better place, and ultimately to become more like Jesus. So if you find yourself suffering seemingly without reason, I hope that you'll learn to trust that knowing the God who made you is even better and more important than knowing why. We may not know we may not know how everything is going to work out, or even if it will work out. But even when we don't have every answer to every question, we can still have faith in our Redeemer. And that is good news.